We're just ordinary people living ordinary lives until we see someone on TV win a $25,000 prize. Come on down. I'll play any game for 10 seconds of fame. Come on down. I'll make a deal, just let me spin the wheel. Come on down. To win $1 million, all you need is a little luck and thorough knowledge of multiple disparate trivial subjects.
Hello and welcome back to an all-new episode of Come On Down, the game show podcast.
Now, presenting by one co-host that has beat COVID.
Donald J. Trump.
No, me.
Oh, wow. You always get real slow and dramatic at the beginning.
That's you have to bring the audience in. Think about all the game shows we do.
That's
they don't
true.
go, hey, welcome to the game show. That's when they
is Jeopardy.
Yeah. And at the end, when they say contestants are not allowed to sue, we are not responsible for anybody getting hurt in the show.
Except for on that dog eat dog, or it was the
when the guy drowned when he was trying to...
what was the drown one? Wasn't that?
I think it was just called Don't Drown.
Don't Drown.
The game show Don't Drown.
We've been away for a couple weeks. We had Christmas. You had COVID.
Yep. We actually had a Christmas COVID where we couldn't host family. We had to... It was awful. We had to stay at home and watch TV and do nothing.
Sounds awesome.
And that's how I beat COVID.
Is that also how you beat Shaq?
What's the cardinal sin? Or the 7 cardinal sins?
Oh, the 7 deadly sins?
Sloth. I was
sloth.
That's how you beat COVID is sloth.
Sloth. That's true. Also, antibodies.
No.
General overall health.
No. Gluttony and sloth.
Speaking of gluttony, I saw a thing the other day where the CDC tweeted results of a shocking study.
What did it say?
That obese people were at a higher risk of bad outcomes from COVID, and studies have shown that by losing weight, it reduces their risks. And then somebody who worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign put them on blast and said, "So the CDC's just fat shaming now? Is that what we're doing?"
That's what it sounds like.
Trying to keep people alive. Honestly,
I'm surprised the study didn't just say obese people have poor outcomes in most things in life.
Not in hot dog eating contests.
Due to increased pressure on the heart and or vital lungs.
Vital luggage?
Hold on, what was I trying to say? Vital organs. So I said organs.
Vital organs.
Luggins.
All right, welcome back. We're going to talk about game shows, I guess, at some point, instead of all this controversial And also, I believe that our last episode, I was complaining about how the booster shot was bad, and you were saying that you were invincible.
Did I say that?
Then the next day, who had the booster shot, was fine, and you were
I had a
ventilated.
mild cold. I had a mild cold is what happened.
I did go to the doctor, and they did say that the booster shot fucked up my heart for a few days, and that was normal.
No, it's not.
Apparently, that's normal.
Hey,
that's normal.
That's new normal.
That's the new normal. But I'm fine now. My heart got all better. My little baby heart's all better. It's beating like a champ again.
Maybe if you weren't so obese, your heart wouldn't have issues.
I've been working on it. I started rock climbing again.
Yeah.
And it went poorly because I'm fat and weak now. I'm a little fat, weak boy.
Significantly harder when you gain weight, which is weird.
Yeah.
Have studies come out that said that
we're waiting on the CDC data on fat people rock climbing. But I will say that I think a combination of not rock climbing in 2 years, barely working out in 2 years, and having to climb more weight onto these little rock climbing holds, all combined into a swirl of mommy sore.
Yeah, I imagine the excessive weight you took on from the stuff around your heart probably was the main reason.
It was the fluid around my heart. I gained 12 pounds. It's not my fault.
It's not his fault.
It's not my fault at all. All right, today we're going to be talking about a game show, a little game show.
It's a tiny game show.
It's a little game show. But first, we've got a sponsor, as always.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you what it is when I find out right now. You know what I really hated about my early experiences with my blooming sexual awakening?
What's that?
Regular-sized condoms that made me self-conscious of my penis size.
How so?
I was trying to be safe, and when I put the condom on, but it still had at least 5 or 6 pushes for a complete unravel.
I definitely understand. Not something I've ever dealt with, but I sympathize with you as an outsider to this experience.
Apparently, I'm not the only one because a growing need in the male community for a condom that fits your penis and your ego has emerged, and they're called the Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Peeny Condi.
That's right. That's right. Purchase a pack of these itsy bitsy weeny peeny condies, and you'll find 7 tiny little condoms that are even too small for a tiny rodent, and 1 XXXXL labeled condom.
After struggling to put on the tiny peeny condies, sufficiently feeding your ego, you'll have no choice but to put on the regular size condom that's labeled XXXXL.
I'm happy people in this community can feel empowered while being safe.
Our listeners that could benefit from this product, like myself, can use the code CONDOMONDOWN for 10% off their first order. Itsy bitsy weeny peeny condies, big enough to fit your penis and your ego. I never had that. That's a just to be clear, the sponsor wrote this. This is not a true story.
I don't know.
Because I don't wear condoms.
You never wore a condom ever?
I've never found one that fit. These
right, and that's what the sponsor is supposed to help you with. Thank you to them. And
it's not the same sensation.
Thank you to them. It isn't the same sensation when you put on an itsy bitsy weeny peeny condi and it hurts. I think there have been some issues medically with this sponsor.
Oh.
But guess what? We'll take money from anybody.
That's true. We take money from the pro-COVID lobby. That's how you got COVID. It was on the check that they sent us.
That makes sense.
Yeah. You don't wash your hands enough because you're a dirty little boy.
What is your deal with dirty little boy, dirty little mama?
I don't know. What is my deal with little today? Today's game show is called Small Fortune. And this is a game show that I heard of yesterday.
When he was searching teeny weeny itsy bitsy, and the first thing that came up on Google was Small Fortune.
Oh, God. This is fate. Destiny. So, yeah, Small Fortune is a game show, as it turns out. Mm-hmm. As we've learned, and now you're learning. Probably, because you didn't hear this before.
No.
I'm going to be honest with all of you out there. You don't know what I'm talking about right now. It's a game show that originated in the UK, across the pond, if you will.
Where everything, and did you know this? Everything is 15% smaller in the UK compared to America. That is true.
I've been there a couple times. And
people.
Yeah.
Food sizes.
Foods, yeah. They don't give you the full chili size.
And the money is 15% smaller.
Well,
in both value and size.
I think they do the thing that they do in a lot of places that's confusing to me, where all the monies are different sizes.
Right.
Like a 20 is bigger than a 10. Mm-hmm. Is bigger than a 5.
Right.
Is bigger.
And the 100 that they have is the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of
No, it's actually paper. Like when the Publishers Clearinghouse brings the check to your house.
And it's just as stiff as well.
Yeah. You've got to carry around a big bag for your hundreds. So this originated on ITV. ITV is a TV channel in England. They sued Apple at one point. Pretty cool.
Because they put a small I in front of their name and they thought that...
Correct. So when the Apple TV was going to come out, it was originally going to be called the iTV. And then ITV sued them, and now it's called the Apple TV.
I wonder how much money they got from Apple. You must feel like so empowered to sue the biggest company.
Jack the Giant Slayer. You know?
What's that?
I think it was a movie version of Jack and the Beanstalk where they had to make it all gritty and murdery.
Oh, okay. Live action?
Yeah, I think so. Like a CG live action thing.
Cool.
Don't watch it.
Not interested.
No, you shouldn't be. So, it premiered in February 2019. It had 6 episodes. which is like a standard British thing. Not a lot of episodes for a series.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hosted by Dermot O'Leary, who is different than Dermot Mulroney, who is the American version of Dermot O'Leary. Equally fucking Irish sounding names.
For sure.
Equally Dermot first names.
Dermot the Hermit should be a children's show.
Both. All right. Well, it would just be an Irish hermit crab.
Hey, brother. Come on down with the lads and drink a pint.
That's good. That was great, actually. You get to play Dermot the Hermit.
Yes.
Crab. So it was hosted by Dermot O'Leary. And then in 2020, people in America and South Korea said, let's make that for us. These are two different groups of people. People in America and South Korea. It wasn't
South Korea is south of North Korea as well.
What do you mean as well?
That's just a fact that you can take away from this.
Okay. Yes, it goes North Korea and demilitarized zone, South Korea.
Yeah.
That's the order of operations there from top to bottom.
Is there demilitarized zone like our Mason-Dixon line?
It's very similar, yeah.
Okay.
They have slaves in South Korea, but not in North Korea. They just kill them there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So the show is very similar in both the U.S. adaptation, which is hosted by Lil Rel Howery,
who has been in two of some of the funniest movies I've seen.
Two of some of the funniest movies. So would you say Get Out is one of the funniest movies you've seen?
No. No.
Is that not one of the ones
it
you were
would be
thinking
the Eric Andre movie that came out recently, which was a mix of live pranks and a little bit of a running narrative.
Sure.
And also Vacation Friends.
Oh, yeah. Vacation Friends with John Cena and the chick from Search Party.
Correct.
That was fun. I liked that.
Yeah,
They're making a sequel.
They are?
Uh-huh.
I felt
it's
like
called
that.
like Married Friends or something.
Oh, okay.
Because they're, a spoiler alert, they're all married to each other.
Yeah, you kind of did ruin it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The opening scene is him proposing.
Yeah, but how many proposals don't end in marriage? I would say
question.
maybe 15 to 20%.
And then
based on the CDC reports that came out recently.
and the highest risk group of people not getting married after getting engaged is obese people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Lil Rel, I think his introduction to the world pretty much was the movie Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Were you familiar with him at all before Get Out?
I did not remember he was in Get Out.
Okay. He's the friend who's the security guard who comes and saves him at the end.
Oh, the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's kind of the comic, well, I guess there's dark comedy throughout the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's kind of the overt comic relief for much of it. And so that was kind of his big breakout. And then he got a show on Fox, a sitcom called Rel. And then it was bad, so it's not on anymore. It lasted for one season.
That is unfortunate.
But, he's still all right. He's making Hulu original movies with John Cena.
And I bet Hulu pays
other people.
fat bucks, big bucks.
It's owned by Disney, so
there you go.
Can't be too bad. So Lil Rel Howery is the host of this show. Like I said, very similar in both the US and the UK in that the concept is the same. And in both of them, so in the US, you can win $250,000. And in the UK, I believe you could win £250,000.
I would say that is accurate to the name Small Fortune.
That's a small fortune.
That is a pretty small fortune.
And you're just thinking, oh, it's named Small Fortune just because $250,000 is a good amount for a small fortune, and that's the only reason it's named that?
And that's what I think.
Wrong, you fucking idiot.
Okay.
Listen up. Pay attention. Pencils down.
I don't have
Heads
a pencil.
up.
Okay.
7 Up.
Ooh. You have to cheat and look at the sneakers. Also, only the popular kids were chosen anyway, so you would sit in the back and fucking watch these people walk by you.
Your thumb's just fucking up the whole time.
Yeah.
So the Small Fortune bit also ties into the fact that this game has a bunch of miniature shit. Little tiny baby shit.
I just found out how you can beat the games Heads Up 7 Up. if you weren't touched, you put your finger down anyway. And when you get up and say, my finger's been touched, the people go, no, we didn't. And you're like, all the people that just said that.
Dang, you cracked the code.
Yeah. Defeat.
Wow.
Anyway, you're talking about...
We're doing Heads Up 7 Up next week on the show.
And it's just going to be us
stop
too.
Getting ahead of this. So the show is about a bunch of little miniature stuff on tables.
Yeah.
There's a table in the center, and there are little miniature buildings and city structures. People, moons, all sorts of little stuff. And the goal is to complete an objective with the little miniatures.
Yeah.
And you get money.
And you need a lot of dexterity to win
because you got little like tweezers or chopsticks that you got to pick them up and move them with.
Let's give them some examples of these games.
So, for example, there was a miniature Oval Office, like in the president's house.
Sure.
And there was a little tiny baby newspaper on the desk.
Okay.
And you had to throw the newspaper in the trash by flicking it, kind of like a paper football sort of thing.
Oh.
And so it's on the desk. There's a trash can in the corner, and you've got to flick it off the desk and get it to land in the little baby trash can.
It's probably about 5-6 inches away.
Let's check in with Teeny Weeny Peeny.
Okay. It was 17 feet away.
So that's one of the goals, for example. There was another one. We're talking about the premiere episode on NBC in 2021 starring Lil Rel Howery. And it was the moon, a miniature moon with a little moon lander and some astronauts and a miniature American flag. And you have to put on a blindfold, pick up the American flag, and place it into a landing zone, which is a little marked circle, while blindfolded. So you have to, you get a lay of the land by looking at it, and then you put on your blindfold, and you have to try and remember where you think it was and put it there.
In my opinion, the hardest one I saw.
Very hard, very hard. The catch is, with all of these, is that you get one attempt to succeed or fail. However,
okay,
you always get a practice attempt. So you get a try, you get a flick attempt, you get a blindfold attempt. And with the blindfold attempt, for example, I think it's hugely beneficial because you've got, you try and remember, like, how far did my arm extend? How far did I reach? Did I lean over? So that you can get the feel of what I need to do when I'm blindfolded to replicate this move.
Right.
So you get a practice attempt. Like I said, if you fail after the practice attempt, you lose. You don't win the money that you could have possibly won in that mini game. By the way, I bet you they thought that was pretty funny, calling them mini games.
Why?
Because the whole thing is miniature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I also wonder, did they hire Lil Rel Howery specifically because Lil is in his name?
Yes, absolutely. And Lil Bow Wow isn't Lil anymore because he's a grown man.
He's just Bow Wow now.
No, he's called Man Bow Wow.
Oh, Man Bow Wow. See, that was his... They were originally going to get him, but they found out he changed his name.
Yeah.
No chance. Sorry, we're on to Lil Rel. And all the other Lils are probably in prison, so...
How
he was
dare you?
What? Is Lil Wayne out?
Lil Wayne is out. Also, Man Wayne now.
Man Wayne. So, however... If you do your practice and you don't feel quite comfortable yet, because if I fail this, we lose the money here.
Yeah.
You can, for the cost of 20% of the potential prize for that minigame,
yikes,
you can take another practice. And then another practice.
Okay.
I mean, you can do as many practices as you want until there would be no money left. If you want to. The way that the money structure works is the first game is $10,000.
Ooh,
so you're taking a $2,000 penalty each practice. You go down to $8,000, $6,000, etc.
That's like 4 Chevy Vegas.
4 Chevy Vegas for $10,000? Wow. Then the next game is 25,000, 50,000, 75,000, 100,000. So on the 100,000 one, you're taking 20,000 away for an additional practice.
Yeah,
attempt.
but you want those practices because
You want money, so you don't want to fail.
Right.
So you want to make sure you're good at it, because if you take two additional practices, $60,000 is a lot better than $0,000.
yes, I have been told
in my opinion,
based on the CDC reports that have come out recently.
that is true. So, and just to be clear, the difference in the UK version is every game was 50,000 in the UK.
Okay.
So they're both ultimately added up to 250,000, but the UK was standard across the board, whereas in the US it heightened until we had $100,000.
Which I feel like is classic America. You got to you have to keep going higher and higher and higher. And the UK is like, we've been doing this for a long time, just existing.
Yeah.
We're fine with just kind of coasting at this point. And America's like,
We don't-
we're young. We
we don't
need
need
to
to
continue
ladder
to
up at
prove
all.
ourselves. World War III? Let's skip it. Let's do World War IV.
Hell yeah. So we didn't mention, I don't think, that there are teams of 3 competing together on this.
I feel like World War should have had subtitles. Or not subtitles, but...
Like World War II, the second one,
Yeah,
or the
well,
Nazi one. Or something.
it's called the Nazi one.
It's like episodes of Friends, the one with all the Nazis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think that would have made them better, a little bit better.
Yeah. So World War One, the one with the assassination of
Yeah.
Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Right. Also the band.
World War II, the one with all the Nazis.
Yeah. Or they call it what's something about mustache? The mustache rides.
World War III, Let's Go Brandon.
That's what starts it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a team of 3 that is competing. There's no competitors. You're just competing against the games themselves.
Yep.
And it's 3 people that are friends or family members or friends and family members or co-workers, things like that.
Right.
People with some relation to each other. And for each of these games, they're choosing amongst themselves a representative to
Compete.
in that game. So if you know that somebody's, got great chopstick skills and it involves picking stuff up with chopsticks,
Mm-hmm.
then you want to send that person out,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Somebody's got great timing, and there's a timing game. There was one where a miniature train was going around a train track,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little ramp, and you had these little tiny balls.
Look like musket balls.
Yeah, and basically you had to try and drop it down the ramp so that it landed in the open caboose of the train as it went around.
The theme was Gold Rush. It was tiny balls of gold
Balls
that
of
you
gold.
were dropping into the train.
So you've got to figure out who's the best at each of these things, send them in there, and hopefully they can compete to add money to your pool. Because if they don't, like this team in the premiere episode, they failed on both the first and the second of the 5 things. So they had $0 going into number 3. So it was not the hottest start ever for them.
I mean, some people would argue the absolute worst start.
It was the worst start they could have possibly had.
Yeah.
After 2, the least amount of money you can have is 0. I guess that's the least amount you could have after every single round.
Yeah. This isn't a Jeopardy situation. You're not losing money.
Right. So they had 0. And that's not the goal of the game. You want to win a small fortune. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this game show got originally produced just because of the title. I think somebody was like, all right, so here's an idea I have for a game show. There's like there's a miniature bar, and you have to slide a miniature drink down the bar, and it has to not fall off the edge and go a certain distance, and other assorted things like that.
Right, and I'm about to kick you out of my office because it's the
And it's
stupidest fucking thing
called
I've ever heard.
Small Fortune.
What'd you say?
We call it Small Fortune. You know that phrase, like you win a small fortune, and everything's small
I
in
hate
the
it.
game.
I hate it. Get out of my office.
Shit.
You're
I
kicked
thought,
out.
I thought that was going to be the
You're
turning
kicked
point. I
out,
thought that
but
was
wait,
going to do
you're
it.
kicked out?
Uh-huh.
Hey, could you please come in here, my associate?
Yes, sir.
We're going to steal that guy's idea.
Already wrote it down.
Yes!
So that was that was the origin of Small Fortune. It's on the Wikipedia page. If you don't believe me, look it up.
You can't use Wikipedia in school as a legitimate source, so why would we use it here on the podcast?
Well, you can't technically, but what you can do is go to the Wikipedia, write your entire paper off of what it says on the Wikipedia, then go down to the sources cited at the bottom of the Wikipedia page and cite those sources as your sources.
Wow.
At least you could in approximately 2008 when I was graduating college.
But you didn't do that.
I did absolutely do that.
In what class?
I took a class called History of Cold War Science, and it was basically like how to build a nuclear bomb.
Excuse me?
So you remember those nuclear bombs that we used on Japan?
I remember the Anarchist Cookbook, yes.
So this class was all about kind of the development of the nuclear bomb and then nuclear power plants and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to write a 10-page paper.
Double spaced?
I don't know. I don't remember. Probably not. This is college. This isn't high school. I had to write a 10-page paper about something in that class. And so maybe like nuclear power or something like that. And so I went to the Wikipedia page for nuclear power. I wrote the entire 10-page paper based off of reading the Wikipedia page.
Did you plagiarize?
No, I did not plagiarize. I summarized.
So you changed a couple of words.
Yeah. I moved a period to a comma and I put an and. I wrote the entire 10-page paper off of that Wikipedia page. And I clicked a couple of the associated links within there. Like,
just in case they checked your URL.
Well, just because, in case they checked my search history.
Yeah.
Well, no, because like it would say like, oh, the nuclear power, it uses cooling rods, and the cooling rods is its own page. So then I click on cooling rods, so I get an idea of what cooling rods is. So then I can talk about.
Oh, you use different Wikipedia pages.
Yeah.
You didn't actually go to the sources that are linked down below.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And so then what I did was in the sources of your paper, I cited the sources from the Wikipedia pages that I visited. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a couple of the book, like the textbooks for the class.
Okay.
And I kind of just like opened them up to random pages and like scanned and found like a little quote that I could pull.
Yeah.
And so like I would like pull like a 6-word quote, and then I would cite it back to the textbook, so it looked like I was also doing all my research through the textbook.
You should lead some sort of a master class about how to do the absolute least amount of work at the absolute last seconds of a deadline in order to skate by in life.
When did you watch this show?
What's that?
When did you first watch this TV show that we're talking about right now for this project?
Don't change the subject.
I'm just wondering.
Don't change the subject. It is absolutely about you skating by in life last second.
Not you.
Look how much more I wrote on mine.
You did write more.
Yeah.
But because I've got it all up here. Lil Rel. I knew I was going to make a joke about Lil Rel being Lil, and that's why he hosted the show. I knew I was going to do that.
And your joke was, hey, do you think they use Lil Rel because he has Lil in front of his name?
Yeah. I'm still working on the joke. I'm still forming it.
You're waiting to drop it?
I thought maybe you would help
Hey, stay
me with
tuned to
that.
the end when we hear the Lil Rel Howery joke.
What's your guys' favorite Lil Rel Howery joke that you've heard?
Take it off the Wikipedia page and send it in.
Yeah. So you're earning this money as you go, sacrificing a little bit to do extra practices and things like that. And basically, everybody always does at least one extra practice.
Oh, for sure.
I've noted this on the UK version as well as the US American version.
Even if they made it perfect shot, perfect attempt first time.
Yeah, like for example, you seem to be referencing in the premiere episode when they did the newspaper in the White House that they had to flick into the trash can. The guy just crushed it on his practice, but unfortunately practice doesn't count. So he still has to do it, and he was like, I want to practice again. And then he practiced again, and he missed it in his practice. And then he was like, I want to practice again. And then he missed it in his practice. And then he was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then he missed it.
Yeah.
So 1 for 4, and the 1 did not count.
Right. Which I think is an interesting look into the psychology of pressure.
Oh, absolutely. You see, like, if you watch them doing some of the practices and then you watch them in the actual performance of the thing, their hands are shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's crazy.
They'd be terrible surgeons.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if it was like, all right, do you want to practice this heart surgery? How many times do you want to practice it? And they're like, all right, you failed 3 times now, but the insurance isn't going to pay you out nearly as much if you do another practice. And they're like, all right, I'm going to try the heart surgery now.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. And that is how medicine worked until a few years ago.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah. So you're collecting money as you go along. And so, you succeed in a couple of these, you earn your money, and then you just walk out the door with that money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong. You play these 5 mini games. You earn your money, and then you haven't actually earned your money.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, because you have to do the Big Little Heist
Oh.
in order to get your money out of the bank and escape with it.
So is the show Big Little Lies just a show about really small, insignificant lies?
Yeah, so I think in the show Big Little Lies, it actually took place inside a snow globe. Like Saint Elsewhere. It was the same sort of thing.
It kind of just the camera pans
Where
out.
it was all miniature. It was a miniature Meryl Streep and a miniature Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Still had a miniature Great Rack. And it's just, they're very, very millimeter sized people.
Got it.
We're just using super ultra zoom lenses that we wouldn't have been able to capture before a couple years ago.
They have actually been shrunk down, is what you're saying.
Right. Have you seen the movie Downsizing with Matt Damon?
No. I have seen the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay, well, I referenced both of those in my notes here.
Okay.
Very similar. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The difference between Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Downsizing is that you don't want to kill yourself after watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Whereas if you do watch Downsizing, there is at least a 60% suicide rate, and it's higher amongst the obese.
That's terrifying. And that's a CDC?
That's a
release?
CDC study.
Okay.
CDC study that was recently released about the Matt Damon film Downsizing that is arguably one of the top 5 worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
What are the other ones? Just a couple.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
This movie's so bad
It
that I put it
wiped
in
out.
my top 5 worst movies ever, and I can't even think about what could be as bad as this movie.
Or did it take all 5 slots?
It might take all 5 slots. It's that bad. It is the most nonsensical, difficult to follow movie I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And you'd think, oh, it's got Matt Damon,
Mhm.
it's got Kristen Wiig,
Oh.
it's got the German guy who's good,
Oh, the
Christoph
guy.
Waltz,
Yeah.
Hans Landa from
The guy
Inglourious
who was
Bastards.
terrifying in Inglourious Bastards.
Right. And all those people combine, Jason Sudeikis,
Yeah, I mean, these are all people I want to watch.
they all
with my
combine
eyes.
to make a huge steaming piece of shit of a movie.
Mm.
Just unacceptably bad. And it has an Asian woman in it. And she talked like this the whole movie.
No
like
way.
the most over exaggerated
No way.
Asian accent that I've ever heard. And it's just so bad. It's so bad. It's a movie about a guy,
Uh-huh.
Matt Damon,
Right.
and his wife, Kristen Wiig.
Mm-hmm.
They decide that there's this new thing called downsizing, the name of the movie, for example, and you get shrunk and your stuff gets shrunk
Okay.
and you can live in this shrunken world where you are obviously consuming a lot fewer resources.
Oh.
So you need a lot less food because you just need the food that is the amount of the size of you, you know?
Right. So
And
it's
you need-
another global warming commercial for Hollywood.
It is a little bit of a global warming commercial, exactly. But they do it because it's like...
Sorry, climate change. It's not called global
Right.
warming anymore.
They do it because it's cheap. Like, oh, I can live in a fucking dollhouse, but it's a mansion to me when I'm that small.
Got it. Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of the selling point. And also that, yeah, you're consuming less resources, so it's better for the environment and things like that. And then there becomes a side plot about like miniature Asian slaves that they're like downsizing people to be the workers in
Ooh.
here as like little kind of slave people. And then they're going into a little mini underground bunker or something. It's so weird.
Did you
It's
fall
just-
asleep watching it?
I don't know. Like I might have like gotten COVID and had like a fever dream in the middle of it because
Yeah.
that was what it felt like because it was so weird and bad. And Kristen Wiig doesn't shrink herself
And
at
why
the last
not?
minute.
And why
she's
not?
a selfish bitch.
Wow.
She stays as a big girl, not a CDC type of big girl.
Right.
Just a regular adult woman size.
Uh-huh. Let's see what downsizing Rotten Tomatoes has.
It's gonna have a bad, I bet.
It's going to have a bad?
It's bad. It's a bad movie.
47.
Way too high.
But 20.
47 is
hold on.
way too high.
23 is the audience score.
Exactly.
Okay, that
the
makes
critics
more
are full
sense.
of shit because some critics that were like, I liked the parable for climate change,
Right.
which is not a parable, although it was very clear that they were saying like you consume less resources, so it's better for the environment.
You got it.
And it was so all around bad, I couldn't believe it.
That's unfortunate.
You know what I'd rather watch? Small Fortune, starring Lil Rel Howery
Yeah?
or Dermot O'Leary. Because we just got into the Big Little Heist, and then we sidetracked
we
massively.
did. Big Little Heist.
The Big Little Heist is where you actually earn all of the money that you've earned at the end.
Hell
You
yeah.
actually get to win all of the money that you've earned at the end. And so, basically, this one requires all three people
Ooh.
to complete an objective. So there's a bank that you have to. The first person has to like find some key cards and get them into slots
Right.
to break into the bank.
Again, we're talking miniature.
Miniature, obviously, this is a miniature bank with miniature little tiny baby key cards that you got to pick up with little tweezers. You got to find them.
The tweezers are normal size.
They're normal size tweezers, just to be clear. Thank
That
you.
would be so hard if they were
you had
tiny
mini
tweezers.
tweezers. It'd be near impossible. You got to get the key cards into the right slots to open up the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hit the button to stop the clock, and now it's the next person on your team's turn. And it's back to flicking, baby.
They love
back
flicking
to
in the
flicking.
show.
There's little dynamites, and there's 3 magnets on the safe inside the bank, and you've got to attach by flicking a dynamite to each of the 3 points, magnetic points on the bank,
Right.
or on the vault to break open the vault. Then once you've broken open the vault, a little baby helicopter flies
That's
in.
a baby helicopter?
A little baby helicopter flies in with a platform, and the final person has to stack 3 different sized chunks of gold.
Money. Look like money piles.
Money piles, is that what
Or
it
like
was?
squares of money.
Yeah. Onto the little platform that's hanging from the helicopter
Mm-hmm.
and get them to balance out with each other, basically.
Not as easy as it sounds.
No, not as easy as it sounds at all, because again, they're 3 different sizes. So, and it's like a string in the middle holding this platform.
Yep.
So if you start with like the biggest one, it's just going to slide right off the edge.
Yeah.
I think the right strategy is to start with the smallest one, put it in as close to the string as you can in the
Yeah.
middle there, then go for the biggest one and put the biggest one opposite the small one.
Yeah.
And maybe like try and move the small one away from the middle a little bit while you're doing this,
Okay.
because it'll balance out the
Right.
fulcrum a little bit. And then you put the medium-sized one on top of the small one.
Yeah. I think that's a great strategy.
I think that's the
I think
strategy.
that's what you have to do.
It's still very tricky because it's very tiny. You're dealing with a very small margin of error because if you've got any shake hand, if your muscles are tiring at all when you're trying to put this in the
Yep.
exact perfect spot, it's very, very tricky, very sneaky with little stuff. But if you do manage to do all 3 of those things,
Yeah.
you finally get your money. The helicopter flies
And it
away.
is
It
all
escapes.
shrunken money.
Yes, you do get shrunken money. You can only use this money in the downsizing community from Matt Damon's
Oh
movie.
no.
You can choose to be downsized.
But it
and
does sound like you can buy slaves in this community.
they just work there. They're like the trash people
Oh,
and the cleaning crews and stuff like
got
that.
it.
And I did like also, I feel like the copywriters on this show were earning their paychecks
Mm-hmm.
because the bank was called Lil Rel's Fargo. I thought that was funny that it had a sign that said that on the bank.
Yeah.
It's dumb, but I liked it. So good work, guys. Yeah. In the British version, the original, they didn't have the bank heist at the end. It was just 3 more things that each person had to do.
Oh, okay.
Basically.
One of them was the what's it called? The doctor game where you can't touch the sides.
Oh yeah,
But it was a-
Operation.
Yeah,
Wooly
but it was
Wooly.
a little hole or a little hook that you had to go up this big old magnetized pole or electrified pole and to get it off without touching the sides.
Yeah, so the British version, I think the ending was a little bit worse than this one because this one it all comes together into one thing, whereas in the British version it's just like 3 more things that you have to do.
Is there anything at all that the British do that's better than the American
Here's
version?
what I will say.
The Office, maybe.
Maybe The Office. I can't say I've only seen a little bit of the British Office. I probably should watch it all.
It's very good.
But here's what I'll say. The British version is a lot more lighthearted and goofy.
Okay.
And I kind of appreciate that. The American version does what all American versions of things do, is just super dramatize things.
Yeah.
Everything was super dramatic and life or death. And the British version, they were kind of goofing a lot. And the announcer on the British version was great. He was doing all sorts of good, like in the American version, when they're like, oh, we've got a miniature West Wing. And here you see on the president's desk is a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
The newspaper needs to go in the trash. So you have to flick the newspaper into the trash. The 2 ways you can do it are by flicking it directly into the trash or by bouncing it off the wall behind the trash and getting it to land in there.
Snooze fest.
And in the British version, it's like, this tiny little pub is the tiniest wee pub in the world, and all of its wee drunken residents are gallivanting and having fun. And it's just like they have fun with it. They do little goofs.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that. And then, yeah, it's not quite as dramatic with every heartbeat on the British version. They recognize that like this is a goofy little game show. And
I don't know. It's not goofy to win £250,000 That's not a goofy thing.
£250,000. I think that's even more than $250,000.
It has to be. It always has been.
It always has been.
And I always remember
It always will.
when you go to the UK, you have to think, this isn't really. It's similar to like when people come down here from out of the country and you get a bill and it's like, oh, this is a $12.99 meal. And you're like, psych, there's tax and tip that we didn't tell you about. Welcome to America, bitch.
Whoa. Well, yeah, but the nice thing about it is if you're in Europe where they've got the euro that's stronger than the dollar, or in Britain where they have the pound that's stronger than the dollar, in your dumb little brain, it feels like things are actually cheaper. So you're good. You're like, oh, it says only £10. I'm just going to assume that means $10.
Right.
And it's good, but it's actually like 15.
And you're wrong.
Right. But you don't have to worry about that until the credit card bill comes in.
Okay.
So right now you're just like, yeah, give me 6 of them.
Yeah. Wow. 6 of what? What are you buying 6 of?
Eggs.
It's $10 per egg?
Pounds.
It's £10 per egg?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a 10-pound egg, that makes sense.
They don't have chickens in England, so it's a lot harder to get the eggs there.
Okay.
Because, but they did answer the question. The egg comes first in England.
It does.
Yeah.
Kind of like how the guy comes first.
Whoa. That's inappropriate. This is a family podcast.
Yeah.
How many families do you think listen to podcasts together?
There's
There's like family shows on TV. Are there family podcasts?
If I went over to a friend's house and they were like, all right, it's 8 p.m., it's family podcast time, I would think that they are serial killers for sure. It doesn't matter what podcast they listen to.
That's the thing. Like, so back in the day, like, I don't know.
Back in the day, you and me, baby.
That was good British. The 20s or the 30s or whatever.
You're talking radio time?
Yeah, radio time. People would sit around in the living room and listen to radio shows together.
Sure.
Now, people sit around and watch TV shows or movies together.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be so fucking weird if people sat around and listened to a podcast together?
Yes.
Like, do you and your wife listen to some of the same podcasts?
Yeah, we do.
Do you ever sit together and like not in a car? Not in a car.
I was gonna say in the car, yes. Outside of the car, absolutely not.
That would be
I've
weird,
never
right?
listened to a podcast through a stereo or a speaker, not in a car. It's always through headphones,
Right.
and when I'm alone. I turn the lights out. It's all pitch black.
Wow.
I get into my Joe Rogan
I get into
saltwater chamber.
I was about to say sensory deprivation thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, and yes, it would be so strange.
I'm gonna start doing it. I think.
You're gonna force you and Erica and your dog to listen to
Uh-huh.
a podcast.
Yes. I don't. Listen.
Here's the thing: nobody has time for podcasts because most of them are an hour plus.
Dude, they're so long, including this one.
Who has an hour to spend dropping everything in your life when you could be surfing very important Instagram reels?
It's so true. Listen, I get upset about like people don't have any fucking attention span and all this stuff, all this like me now stuff is annoying.
Sure.
But like I don't fucking listen to podcasts. They're too long.
You don't listen to any
I
podcasts?
don't listen to any podcasts
Oh man.
except for this one.
Well, I go on walks,
Which you
and
should
that's
too.
a perfect time to listen to podcasts.
You just listen to talk radio usually.
Like live radio?
Rush Limbaugh. I gotta see what he's saying. He's dead. Like sports.
Even he has a name that isn't. Where's Slow Down Limbaugh?
take it
Chill
in.
out,
Take it
Limbaugh.
all in.
Take it all in,
enjoy it.
Limbaugh.
I either listen to the Ticket, the sports radio station here,
Mm-hmm.
or I listen to music in my car.
Wow.
That's it. Every once in a while, I'll listen to a podcast.
Which one? This one?
Why would I listen to this one? I've already said this one.
Maybe to give yourself notes on how to improve it.
Yeah. No, I don't care about improving it. You're either in or you're out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Small Fortune now that we've talked all through how it works?
I thought it was incredibly unique and it had a really cool niche for people who love tiny
People
things.
who love tiny shit, like dads who just have had everything else sucked out of their soul, so they build little train sets in the basement.
Yeah, or like serial killers that have really crazy, like unique, like somebody who collects,
Dead bodies,
yeah, or like unopened action figures,
right? Or like stamps.
like if that's Steve Carell, 40-Year-Old Virgin. If
Yeah.
it wasn't a lighthearted comedy about a guy losing his virginity, that would be a show about a guy who kills people
Right.
because he's so wound up, so tight.
Because he's got all that pudding backed up
Right.
from never having sex.
So I thought it was super niche. I liked it. The first game show where you get to practice that we've ever done.
I think there was that one. Remember with the crash test dummies where they're in the cube. I think there was a practice element.
Oh, they were
on
allowed
that.
to practice on that?
Or maybe I'm just thinking of the demonstration of the crash test dummies. I can't remember.
Yeah. I think that one just had a demonstration.
Okay.
It reminded me of this tiny basketball game I used to have where there was
Where you like flick the thing.
yeah, there was a groove for the tiny basketball and you'd flick it and try and make it in. And I don't know why, but man, I played that thing so often and for so long.
How good were you?
I mean, I was okay.
That's depressing.
It's hard to do.
It seems like you did it for so often and for so long. You should be good. Like, didn't Malcolm Gladwell have something to say about that?
I didn't try to improve, similar to you don't try to improve the podcast. You just continue at a very level.
Right. Well, I just assume that I'll naturally get better, like I did with sex.
And that's what I did. And we were in the same boat, the
Oh.
same tiny mid-level boat.
Same, just middling.
I didn't like
Average.
how the voiceover in the British version wasn't British.
It was weird. What was the accent to it?
I didn't think it had one.
So
I
you
thought it was more
American?
American than anything.
Yeah, it was just a little weird. A little weird.
You know what I
voice.
was?
don't
You know what it was?
What?
You know how British people lose their accent when they're singing? Same thing when they're doing deep voiceovers and loud
Oh,
voiceovers.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
But then it's like Adele's like, oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna sing a little song for you here. And then she's just like, hello, it's me. I'm American as fuck when I am singing this song.
I would definitely listen to that album if that's how it started. Was that first song?
Yeah, her album's called 1776. You know, they're all numbers.
Should we jump in to make it better?
How would you make it better?
I would show the friends. I think that they should be able to negotiate the division of the money.
Ooh,
Like we'd be like, here, look, I'll do this one, but I want an extra 10K on top of y'all because I'm doing
Wow.
this one.
Because you can't do this. You fuckers.
Yeah,
couldn't
I've
do this.
seen you flick things before, and you're terrible. They should offer bonus money if the contestant decides to do it without a single practice.
Ooh,
Like an extra 5K.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that it might be entertaining to introduce some sort of an annoying distraction noise to mess with the contestants. Because like in this one, they're like, audience, please be quiet. Give them full attention.
There was no audience. It was fake.
I know. And okay, that brings me to a point though. I thought that they brilliantly set up the set to make it look a little more or sound a little more natural with the fake audience.
Yeah.
By having these giant screens behind them, and they didn't
Right.
show any of the audience. You just were supposed to think, oh, they're on some sort of they're behind the
Right, they're where the camera is, or
Right.
something, where I'm looking. So, on that real fast, the one thing you miss from the lack of audience, because this came out in spring 2021.
Yeah.
So, COVID. In the British version, what you're missing in the American version is when they do the practice, they have to decide, do I want to pay for another practice? Do I want to go? In the British version, you've got the crowd going, go for it, go, and things like that. You missed out on that completely in the American version, because that would be a weird fake crowd noise for them to have had
would be
in
very-
their stash.
very, very strange.
So that was one thing that you missed out on that's fun in the British one. Is like, I saw one where a guy in the British one, he succeeded 3 times in a row in practice before being willing to try the real thing.
Wow.
But in the British version, you only lose 10% per practice, so it's not quite as punitive.
Yeah.
But still, I was like, dude, fucking go for it. Like, he failed on the first one, and then he corrected what he did wrong and succeeded on the second one. And I was like, okay, he's got it. He should do it. And then he was like, I need to practice again. And then he practiced again, and then he did it. And then he, like, winked at his friend. Like a confident, like, you see that? Nailed that. And then he's like, I want to practice again. Like, what the fuck are you still practicing for? And then he practiced again, and he got it right again.
You should lose money if you do a confident wink and then go for another practice.
I agree. That was in my Make It Betters.
I think they should do a giant spin-off called Honey, I Blew Up the Fortune.
Ooh, I like it.
And they should do an opposite version where only contestants with Parkinson's can play, and the more destruction they cause,
Wow. That's,
the larger they can build their fortune.
I don't know what the CDC would have to say about that.
You're less likely to deal with Parkinson's if you're obese.
Oh, wow.
So you want to be obese.
Perfect. So I also had the idea of an opposite giant version.
Okay.
I also had that thought. I also thought, what if we actually just shrink people down
To
to ant size?
actually shrink them down.
Right.
And you know that this is a real thing because you have seen it in movies.
I've seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, Downsizing.
Right.
I think I've seen some other movies where the bad guys have shrink rays.
That's definitely in cartoons for sure.
Right. And what
Wait, wasn't that in Austin Powers?
a shrink ray?
Wasn't that what was that?
Is that how Mini Me came to be?
Oh no, it was sharks with lasers.
Yeah.
So Mini Me, yeah. So do you think that? Wait, hold on.
What?
You think that all little people had some sort of a run-in with a shrink ray?
Of course. That's why they're little
and-
people. They're just people that are little.
And you think that they have done that purposely, or there was an accident?
Some like accidents. I mean, like a lot of hospitals are doing experimental tests and stuff like that where, if you've got an enlarged kidney, they'll use the shrink ray to shrink it down or something. And if they miss a little bit, oops.
Oh, you think all of these
You're shrunk.
are accidents that happened in hospitals, and that's how these people...
Many, not all. I'm not saying all. That's,
Okay.
I'm not going to presume, but I would say many.
Okay. Those are
Happy accidents, because I think it's great to be a little person.
You think you do? You don't think it's harder to navigate the world?
I think it would be offensive if I said that. Because those are the rules of society now.
Okay. Smart. It's very smart to stay on the sidelines of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did want to read a review.
Oh, that you wrote?
Nope.
Where'd you read it?
IMDb.
Oh, okay.
It was for the American version.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna quickly say, I thought that Lil Rel was pretty funny in his hosting duties.
Agreed. I thought both hosts were great.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was the review. That was what the review
No,
said.
no.
I thought both hosts were great. Yeah, no, that was all I wanted to say. Before they got that review, I wanted to get in my last word that I thought Lil Rel was pretty funny.
This person said, reminded me a bit of the Ryan Reynolds backed game show hosted by Adam Scott last summer. Don't.
Didn't like it.
Not a complete waste of time. Full review.
So he thought that both of those shows were not a complete waste of time.
So both of these shows were basically the minimum of what entertainment is.
not a complete waste of time. A little bit of a waste of time still, but
That's
not completely.
true. Yeah.
We gave a pretty harsh review to Don't, I believe.
Yeah, I don't even remember why.
I don't think we liked it that much. Because the name led you to believe that the concept was going to be exclusively about things that you couldn't do, but it
Yeah.
wasn't really that.
That's right. Yeah. But
it
Adam
would be
Scott
like-
and Ryan Reynolds were good, but not enough to pull this game show.
Right, exactly. You thought Adam Scott looked disinterested.
Yeah.
And I thought, don't call the show Don't, and then have it be like, cross the run 40 yards in under 10 seconds and don't do it in over 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, no, there needs to be a don't, a real don't
Right.
that modifies the game. Anyway, not enough about Don't. Small Fortune. The most critical thing that I will say about this show is the slow developing drama of it. Of all like the 30 seconds to send it to commercial break, and then the 30-second recap coming out of commercial break of here's what they are, here's where they're doing, blah blah blah. Like, I just want to let me see the person trying it, let me see the person succeeding or failing in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with the little setup at the beginning because I don't know what the fuck I'm watching otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm fine with getting to know the people a little bit, but then let's play.
And you would think that they have plenty of content because the practice element is now involved in every single.
Right. But it's
step
an
of the-
hour-long show and only one team competing for the whole hour, so I understand why they're stretching it out, but make it on a streaming platform where you're not restricted by things like that, and make it the episodes 34 minutes long if they have to be.
Boom. Perfect.
That's the future.
And get into it because the future
Get
is
to
now.
the future. Because you know what else is the future? Shrink rays.
Wait,
And
I
the
thought you said they were
And the
present.
present. Well, yeah.
But
But it's
you're saying better shrink rays are in the future.
Right,
As technology
exactly.
develops.
Right now, you can't shrink a newspaper, so they had to do a prop one.
Yeah.
Things like that.
You can only shrink people,
Right.
not inanimate objects,
Right.
unless it's a kidney.
Or clothing, because I think in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, they shrunk their clothes with them.
Got it.
I just went to Disney World, and there used to be a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids play place,
Okay.
and it was cool because it was like a giant
Blades
of grass that you were
Yeah.
running through, and there was big ants, huge giant ants and stuff
terrifying.
like that to terrify you, and little connects and Legos that were giant that you would climb around and things like that. But it's gone now. Kids don't know about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids anymore, I guess. It got replaced by
Until-
Toy Story Land,
Yeah. Well, that's more
which
popular.
is also very similar because you're supposed to be toy size and everything is
Smart.
everything in Toy Story
That's
Land
recycling.
is-
That's repurposing at its finest.
They do a lot of repurposing at Disney World. It's well done. Anyway, that's Small Fortune. I would give it a 3.5 buzzers.
Wow. I give it a small 4,
Wow.
but a small one,
Okay.
which is around a regular size 3.5.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Good hosting, very unique, good dramatization, good risk level. And I think 250,000 is a pretty sexy prize.
Yeah, I agree. The people on that first episode, they won like 160,
I mean,
170, something like that.
that's huge.
It's nice.
And what you can do is then you can kill one of your friends.
And then you get
after
half
boom.
instead of a third.
Of course, make it look like an accident.
Obviously. All right, we gave it a solid 3.5 buzzers.
No, we
or a
gave it
small
a regular
4.
We gave it a regular 3.5 and a small 4.
Yes, a small 4. That's also my penis size. It's a small 4.
What's a small? I guess just because it's 4, it's small, or it's
It's just a small 4. No, it's 3.5. It's a regular 3.5. But it's a small 4.
Got it.
You round, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Up, always.
Always.
All right, this has been Come On Down the Game Show podcast. That's been Small Fortune. It's fun. Maybe check. It's on. What'd you watch it? How'd you watch it? YouTube.
Watt32.tv had every single episode available to watch.
Sounds like a bootleg situation.
100%. Mhm.
Okay, it's also on Peacock if you have Peacock.
I don't pay for TV,
I don't either. My credit card does, which I pay for.
which is directly linked to you. Okay.
Which I do pay for. All right, yeah. So we will see you guys next week where we'll talk about something else. And maybe in the meantime, the CDC will start using shrink rays on the obese people.